My name's Andy, or Andrew Tompsett. I'm a previous chair of the 39 Club, as was my father Trevor. And I promised him when he left us a few years ago that I won't do the Masons, but I'll definitely be doing the 39 Club.
Which is good, because we couldn't afford the Masons, so that's really useful. So this is an interesting part of your life, isn't it? Did you think, first of all, as a kid, that you'd be in the same trade as your dad?
Well, very interesting question, because I went to university and I was actually in a band called the Dumb Blondes, and we were touring around the country. We were playing gigs with Adamant and the Sweet and that. And then I was playing keyboards, and then that all kind of disbanded. Phil Collin went to go and play for Def Leppard, so we kind of lost a guitarist, and I had to ask my dad for a job.
So what was your dad up to?
Well, then in those days, he started off as a hatter, but got into leather belts, Ibex belts, and then he went into partnership with Outlook Belts, which was in Walsall in the old leather country. And he basically set it up with his partner Barry Dovey, and in those days you became a rep for like a part of England. So I was the southeast rep. I was quite young, 18, 19, and he made me work under Mike Smith, who is also a member of 39 Club. He was my sales manager, and his mantra was, you always make that last call. And I remember we were in Slough, and I think there was about 3 foot of snow, and he said, we always do the last call, and we both couldn't get home.
What did you bring to it, you coming from outside, do you think? Because a sales job, you need some showbiz, don't you?
Yes, and I kind of learnt a bit about showbiz, you know, playing the Lyceum and the Marquee and stuff back in the day. But I think I kind of understood my father's passion for it. And when we used to have the spring lunches that we still have today, extremely well attended, you know, it was a time that I could meet all of my uncles. All my father's brothers would all get together. I'll be hearing about their stories, and I used to look forward to being part of it, because it meant I could see all of them. And we always hosted a table at the 39 Club lunch, and we still do today.
That's really interesting. That's the thing that we all do as families, is that you want to talk to relatives to get those old stories. And the 39 Club is a bit like that, isn't it? Extended family.
It is. And I think you also, when you're a member, you know, I wouldn't have known other members like Brian. We wouldn't have known each other, because we don't bump into, you know, each other in the Harrods buying office anymore, because everyone's on the road and doing their own thing. But I've made lifelong friends, as have people before me, of people you really enjoy their company, and they are your family. You know, they definitely become family.
Before we discuss some of the minutiae of this world, what territory were you working in? What is there particular areas of stuff that you sold that you really enjoy working on?
Interesting point. It was kind of varied, because I started off with a company called JTEX, very famous company set up after the war with Jack Ripper and Peter Ripper. I was doing the southeast of England, because how could you make a living selling belts? So then I was selling shirts, T-shirts, quite casual, I would say very casual. And then they went spectacularly bust in 91. And I went to the National Football League, American football. So I learnt the sports side of the business, working with JD, with John and David when they first set up JD Sports. We worked with USC and all the sports people. And that was very interesting. We took them to Super Bowls, which was outrageous. And then that got very political. We did the American Bowls in London, Tokyo and Berlin. So we did some interesting stuff. And then I got hoiked out of that to go and work for Alpha Industries, which is a military brand with the MA1s, selling to Jarvid of Merck in Carnaby Street. And we got Beckham wearing it, and it all got quite exciting. And we did extremely well with Alpha Industries, Selfridges, Harvey Nicks, Whistles, all the big stores. And then I did my 10 years there, and then I did another 10 years with a brand called Merck, which you've probably heard of.
Absolutely.
So I became great friends with Jarvid Alavi, and I hang up my hat during the COVID time, and everyone says, what do you do all day? I said, well, I wouldn't have had time to work.
Listen, I'm going to have to nerd out on this. The 90s and selling sports brands is a very different story from the one that we've got now. They sold sports product, didn't they? But it wasn't marketed as such, was it? That was very cusp wasn't it? I should think.
Yes, it was both and both. I mean, you did get the sales. I mean, I remember standing up in a conference in Barcelona just after the Olympics there, and we had Phil Knight from Nike, there was all the chief people from Adidas, but there was a demand for the product. You know, why did everybody want to wear the LA Raiders? It wasn't because they supported the Raiders, it's because it was black and cool and it was worn by, if you like, some of the delinquent youth. You know, it was a statement. And the Americans could never understand why we would sell the teams that weren't doing very well in the Super Bowl. I mean, who'd want to go and wear a kind of, you know, Tampa Bay Buccaneers shirt when the Raiders was much cooler?
Yeah.
So it's quite interesting. You know, you think with the football teams like Manchester United today, you know, people are selling products around the world because it's cool.
Oh, you and I know a boring 3 hours later about this. Don't worry about that. Right. What's important is that because the 39 Club runs through your blood, you know your way around the bits and pieces. Now, you've got some of the formula ephemera here. So could you please show us a couple of bits?
Yes. Well, probably I think this is the most important thing. We have a big part to play with charity. Every year the chairman chooses their charity, and it's probably one of the biggest privileges of being chair. You can decide where you want to support. This often comes from a family experience or friend's experience. But this tin, this looks a bit battered. It's certainly been through one World War, but it's where we use every night for the meeting. We do a charity collection as well as a raffle, and everyone generally empties their pockets of hopefully sterling and some money, but we occasionally get buttons and euros.
It looks a bit battered.
It's battered.
Coin's gone in rather than notes.
It is battered, but it comes out every single meeting and has done ever since I've been involved in the club.
That's marvellous.
Next we have another important thing for chair, and currently we have Madam Chair, is the gavel, where we can get order, make people address the chair. We don't use it an awful lot, but once the drinks get a little bit rowdy and, you know, there's all the conversations going on, it's good to bring it through the chair. So there is a little bit of formality that we like to keep. But I'm happy to say lately we don't really use it that often.
Yeah, but it's nice to know it's there, isn't it?
Then we have the rule book. This was my father's rule book, printed quite beautifully actually. And we've amended the rules up to now. There's not been much changes, but there's obviously modern things you have to sort of put into it. But the rule book is good, and we still stick to the rules.
Lovely. Pocket size as well, very wide.
Yes, it's quite handy to sort of go in your as a pocket. And then finally, we kind of love this. This is one of the only freestanding 39 Club car badge. One of these was on my father's Granada Gear X, which he proudly drove around the West End, calling on Harrods and Selfridges. And I don't think there's many London clubs that have their own car badge. It's even got the original box here. Well, the interesting thing about the car badge, which incidentally is made in Great Britain, it is true that one of the members, and probably the chair of the day, wrote to the Lord Mayor of London and said because the 39 Club members need to travel in the West End and they always got parking tickets. My father used to jam the meters in Albemarle Street, but don't tell anybody. But he felt that the cars we shouldn't be ticketed or charged if they had a 39 Club badge at the front of the vehicle, which is quite revolutionary. They did get a letter back. I don't know where it's gone, but they did get a letter back from the Lord Mayor basically saying no.